So today we went on a little walk up Haywood Road from Rectory Lane to Parkview Road, which is potentially a walk that lots of Prestwich preschoolers do, either going to the preschool at Parkview or dropping off their siblings at school. So we thought we'd have a little walk up there and try and identify some of the flowers that we saw on the way. So first up we passed like a little enclosed area of land. I'm not sure who it belongs to, but we had a look at which flowers we could spot behind the bars, and we spotted some ragwort. And sometimes weeds can be a bit contentious. Is it a weed? Is it a flower that you like that just happens to grow natively and abundantly? But this one is a weed, officially in the Weed Act of 1959. Did you know there was a Weed Act? Very exciting. So it's really poisonous both to grazing animals and to humans, but it's not likely to grow in your garden. And next up we saw hollyhock, I think it was hollyhock, which is one that beetles really love to eat. And then after that was wild rose. And then outside of the fence along a little tiny bit was a bramble bush, which you can also call it a blackberry bush. So the flowers are great food for bees, the leaves are great food for caterpillars and deers, and the berries are eaten by foxes and badgers and birds, so they are excellent plants. Then we crossed the road and found buttercup, and then a willow herb. I think it's a willow herb, I'm not sure. I'm just learning all of these as well. Because after having my son, I decided to learn as much as I can about wildlife and native flowers. So this is the journey that I'm on, and now the journey you're on too, because you're joining in with me by watching the video. So I think this is a willow herb, and that's called also known as a bombweed, because it grows, it's normally the first flower to grow on otherwise completely barren land, like areas where bombs have gone. So then walking on, I have no idea what the next one is, but then after that we came across bindweed, which is one of those that gardeners tend not to like whatsoever, and it's eaten by tortoise beetle, which is like a little green beetle that when disturbed will pull all of its legs in under its shell and act just like a tortoise does. And then there's a dandelion, and an excellent little craft to do with dandelions is to cut out a tiny circle of card and draw a little tiny lion's face onto it, and then stick it onto your dandelion and make kind of like a real lion with your dandelion. It's quite fun. So then the next one we saw is an orange hawkweed, which is a popular plant. It's an alpine, and it's I think it's a native British wildflower, which is very popular with native British insects. And then after that we saw some dockweeds, which are not just great for stinging nettles potentially, I don't know whether that's true or not, but also for moths. Insect larvae like to live on them, especially moths. And then next to geranium, which is also loved by caterpillars, and then we crossed the road and we came to what is potentially a blushing bracket fungus, possibly. I don't know. So don't quote me on that, because I don't know mushrooms very well. But then we walked on and we crossed the road and we came to a patch of grass. And on the grass there were daisies and buttercups and clover. Clover is especially good for the bees. The bees like it. But daisies, I think, is really interesting because the word daisy comes from the word day's eye. Or it's a shortened version of day's eye, because the petals open when the sun comes up in the morning and the petals close again at night time, so it used to be called day's eye. And that's the end of our walk. If there are any other flowers that you'd like to chat about, or any of the flowers that I've mentioned in the video, potentially that I've got wrong, or you know more about, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.